Right now at noon, authorities arresting a man who they say confessed to kidnapping and killing his pregnant girlfriend.
And human remains were found, sadly, on Wednesday.
Police say a woman is still missing after being abducted from her job this morning. 27-year-old Andrea Lloyd works as a caretaker at a home.
That's where she was when we're told she opened the door to a man who beat her and dragged her into his car against her will.
In news, unfortunately, we covered too many of these stories, but I can't remember a time in recent memory when so many family members showed up in such a short amount of time, desperate for Andrea to come back home safely.
Being pregnant is supposed to be one of the most special, cherished times in your life. When you're expecting, it's meant to be a time filled with excitement and happiness. Usually, this time is surrounded by the support of your family, as well as your partner. Could y'all imagine how horrifying it would be if just when you needed them the most, your partner turned on you during this special time? Unimaginable, right? Well, in this tragic case, this is exactly what happened to Andrea Lloyd. Only, her boyfriend didn't just turn on her, he murdered her in cold blood. Y'all better brace yourselves. When I tell you this case is disturbing, it's no exaggeration.
Sir, you were arrested for 1 count of first-degree murder, 1 count of kidnapping, and 1 count of armed burglary with an assault or battery.
This is the tragic story of Andrea Lloyd, who was murdered and kidnapped by her boyfriend in one of the most gruesome and cruel ways imaginable. Not only was Andrea only 27 years old, but she was also expecting a baby. Get ready for this seriously eerie story, y'all.
Officers responded to the scene, and sources tell us they found human remains in the area in a large metal box.
On December 10, 2023, it was confirmed that Andrea Lloyd, a 27-year-old mother, had been brutally kidnapped, beaten, and murdered. At the time, she was pregnant with her 3rd baby. Just 3 days before, Andrea was working a regular overnight shift at her day job as a caretaker. Andrea had just found out she was pregnant a few weeks before, so her mind was likely swimming with excited thoughts about her baby. Regardless of this, though, it was seemingly a regular Tuesday. Nothing out of the ordinary was going on. Andrea was simply going about her day as she always did. However, out of nowhere, around 12:30 a.m., an unexpected visitor started knocking at the door. Andrea probably thought it was the postman, or a delivery perhaps. She couldn't have known who it was, or what terrible thing was about to happen to her. When Andrea opened the door to her boyfriend, 32-year-old Xavier Johnson, she was probably surprised. After all, why would her boyfriend be visiting her at work? What could he possibly want? Well, it would turn out that Xavier's purpose for visiting was far more sinister than Andrea could have ever dreamed of.
Andrea Lloyd never returned home from her job as a caretaker at this South Miami-Dade group home, where the 27-year-old worked as a supervisor.
Soon after Andrea and her boyfriend got to talking, their conversation turned into a heated argument. It's unclear what they were talking about, but whatever it was, it sent Xavier into a frenzy. CCTV footage found after the event revealed that their discussion quickly turned into yelling, and before long, it escalated to violence.
She opened the door to a man who beat her and dragged her into his car against her will.
After a few moments passed, Xavier started to beat Andrea in a relentless and unexpected attack. If this wasn't bad enough, after hitting pregnant Andrea repeatedly, Xavier dragged her out of the home against her will. Andrea struggled against Xavier, but her attempts were fruitless. Eventually, Xavier managed to drag Andrea all the way to her car as she battled against his force and aggressively threw her into the vehicle.
She opened the door for him, and they yanked out, throwed her down, grabbed her, threw her in her own car, and drove away.
Finally, Xavier proceeded to get into the passenger seat and drove away with Andrea at his mercy.
Miami-Dade police confirming something did in fact go drastically wrong overnight. They say surveillance video revealed a disturbing scene after a man showed up at Andrea's job just after midnight.
This male proceeded to batter her and eventually, during the altercation, pushed her inside of a vehicle and drove off in an unknown direction.
The next day, on December 8th, CBS announced that Andrea was officially missing, asking the public, "Have you seen this woman?" continuing to relay that Andrea had never returned from work after her shift on Tuesday.
As a caretaker for residents with mental disabilities, there was a knock at the door, and Andrea answered it. Cameras from a neighboring home across the street likely captured what happened next. Cops say the male figure suddenly attacked, beating the woman.
Knocked her down, threw her in the car, and took off.
So she was abducted in her own vehicle?
At her job.
At first, when Andrea was reported missing, the police, as well as her family and friends, were stumped. No one had any clue who could have taken her. Andrea was known for being sensible and responsible. The concept that someone would hold any bad will against her was extremely out of the ordinary.
The most responsible person I know. She can't sleep late. She's up, she's cleaning, she's taking care of the kids.
Lloyd, who's a caretaker and a few weeks pregnant with her third child, was taken against her will, according to Miami-Dade police, at this home where she was working along Southwest 285th Terrace.
She would never open the door at her place of business at that time of the night if it was not someone she was comfortable with and someone she knew.
It's clear that her friends immediately knew something was not quite right. As her friend quoted to the police, she would never open the door if the person knocking wasn't someone she knew, but could her family and friends have anticipated that the perpetrator would be her very own boyfriend? Probably not.
For her not to have contacted any of us, something is wrong.
As soon as the news emerged that she was missing, the police announced her car's number plate in the hopes that someone would locate Andrea and bring her home safely. As well as this, her family also came forward to beg for her safe return. Check out more of the heartbreaking interview where Andrea's dad pleads for her to come home on the brink of tears.
Everybody know me, I don't beg for nothing. But I'm begging for my daughter to come home.
Police said she was dragged and forced into a white Honda Civic with Florida tag Y650DL.
Regardless of Andrea being kidnapped, her family and friends held out the hope that she was still alive somewhere. Countless theories as to what happened to Andrea also began to flurry through Facebook and the internet after her whereabouts continued to remain unknown in the hours after her disappearance. Some Facebook users instantly began to suspect the boyfriend, but at the time, they probably thought that this theory was a shot in the dark. Tragically, they had no idea how right they would be. At this point, everyone thought she was just missing, but the truth of the matter was much, much worse.
As of now, she hasn't been found. She may be found later. As of now, she hasn't, but because of this title, it says, family hopeful that pregnant woman abducted in Miami-Dade is found safe.
We are continuing to use all of our resources to be able to find Andrea.
Into the evening, 7 Skyforce above as daylight turns to night, and the dire search for 27-year-old Andrea Lloyd continues.
On the 8th of December, events took a turn when Andrea's boyfriend was detained after exhibiting some very suspicious behaviors.
A source close to the investigation is telling us that police received a call that the boyfriend of this missing 27-year-old was spotted in this area. They said that the call came in, that it said that he was in the bushes.
Now, let's be real, y'all. I mean, hiding in the bushes. That's some pretty strange behavior. Hell, that's the behavior of a guilty person. I don't know about you, but this behavior on its own made it obvious that Xavier was up to something. He clearly knew that he was about to be caught. Thankfully, as soon as Xavier was found in the wooded area, he was immediately detained by the police.
Miami-Dade PD saying they detained her boyfriend after a family member saw him in a heavily wooded area near 130th Avenue and Southwest 328th Street.
We responded immediately. We observed the boyfriend and we have detained him.
Police say a cadaver dog also alerted them to something not too far from where the boyfriend was seen.
You could only imagine the angst that her family and friends went through after receiving this news. Not only was the boyfriend a suspect, but a dog was alerting to something in the woods. Usually, that means only one thing: a body is present.
Overcome with emotion, Andrea's family wait in angst for any word about where she is.
Where's she at?
Family say Andrea is a mother and just a few weeks pregnant with her third baby.
Sadly, the worst-case scenario was confirmed when an overnight press release made the tragic announcement that human remains were found in the area where the boyfriend was hiding.
Breaking overnight while you were sleeping, Miami-Dade police charged a man for abducting and killing a Southwest Miami-Dade woman. This is a look at that suspect, 32-year-old Xavier Johnson. Police making the arrest after finding the suspect near where human remains were discovered.
To make things things even more creepy. It was even found out that Xavier had been the one to report Andrea missing himself. Xavier probably thought that by doing so, it would make him look less guilty. Oh, how wrong he was. Thankfully, the police managed to catch Xavier out pretty quickly. When the cops arrived at his house to question him, they found blood splattered all over his porch. Clearly, Xavier didn't do a good job covering up his crime.
Xavier Johnson is being held here, as you mentioned, at TGK. He's facing several charges. Detectives say he was the one that called them and reported Andrea Lloyd missing, and when police arrived to speak to him, they found blood on the porch.
It would turn out that the family played a huge part in helping the police find out that Xavier was guilty. According to sources, when one of the family members felt a hunch that Xavier was acting strange, they followed him with a pickup truck to the woods, where he was found hiding. After witnessing Xavier's odd behavior, this was when Andrea's family member made a call to the police to report what they saw, which would later turn out to be a detrimental element in placing Xavier as a suspect. If the call hadn't been made, the police might have never looked further into Xavier or found the place where Andrea's remains were hidden.
New this morning, our first look at the man accused of kidnapping and killing the mother of his children. According to Miami-Dade police, human remains were discovered in this heavily wooded area of Homestead after the victim's family followed Xavier Johnson's pickup truck.
He seemed nervous and a whole lot of things because you got a young man that's out in the bushes and not knowing what to expect. But at that moment, he was just walking around. My nephew done called him and caught him. And when he called him, he said, "Where are you going?" And he took his phone from him. He said, "Who are you calling?" He said, "That's my phone, give it to me."
Evidently, Xavier knew that when Andrea's family found him in the forest, he was about to be caught. You could only imagine the knots forming in his stomach knowing what he had done. You dread to think what could have happened if Xavier wasn't found out. Maybe he would have killed his next girlfriend. Or worse, maybe he would have become a serial killer. After all, if he could do it once, what's to say that he wouldn't do it again? Who knows? Maybe killing Andrea opened up an appetite for killing within Xavier that he had hidden within him. It's just tragic that it had to be Andrea that suffered at the hands of Xavier. In one fell swoop, not only Andrea's life, but also the life of her little unborn child was wiped out. When y'all hear about how Xavier disposed of Andrea's body, you will seriously be disturbed. It was calculated, gruesome, and truly the stuff out of your worst nightmares. It's so creepy that it could literally come from a storyline from American Horror Story. Just listen to this news report that was released when Andrea's remains were discovered.
A police source told CBS 4 News that Andrea's remains were found next to Johnson's black pickup truck in a large metal box.
Investigators were told to have discovered remains of a female near the black pickup truck belonging to the boyfriend. That's where police have focused their search all afternoon here near Homestead Air Reserve Base. Now, according to the senior law enforcement source, the remains were found in a large metal toolbox in this wooded area.
A large metal box, y'all. I don't know about you, but that is seriously spine-chilling. If Xavier wasn't sinister enough by murdering his girlfriend, the fact that he was able to stuff her bloody remains into a metal box is purely disturbing. I mean, that's the mother of his children. Could you imagine looking down at your girlfriend, who you just murdered in one of the most malevolent ways possible, and then be so evil that you decide to dispose of her body in such a gory manner? It's beyond comprehension. Initially, the police didn't identify the remains, but when Xavier confessed to killing Andrea shortly after being detained, no confirmation was needed.
Detectives say Xavier confessed to the crime. Now, according to detectives, the human remains that were found have not been identified yet. Xavier Johnson is facing several charges, including first-degree murder and kidnapping.
Not long after Xavier's confession, the remains were inevitably confirmed as belonging to Andrea, and Xavier was sent to face a judge in court where his fate was to be decided.
The suspect, Xavier Johnson, facing a judge today. He is now being held without bond. Police say he admitted to the kidnapping and killing of Andrea Lloyd.
It comes after human remains were found, which a medical examiner later determined were those of Lloyd.
And this afternoon, a judge said Andrea Lloyd's 2 kids will be staying with their maternal grandfather. We now know Johnson, who is the father of those 2 kids, is facing some major felony charges.
This is a serious case. This may be even a death penalty case.
Amongst the heartbreak that Andrea's family had to endure, I guess you can say that there is a glimmer of justice in the fact that Xavier is facing charges so extreme that he might even face the death penalty. It's not uncommon that murders like these often go unsolved and turn into cold cases. At least, if anything, Xavier is getting the punishment that he deserves.
Sir, you were arrested for 1 count of first-degree murder, 1 count of kidnapping, and 1 count of armed burglary with an assault or battery.
It's truly tragic to think of Andrea's 2 little boys, who are only 1 and 5 years old. Their lives will never be the same again. At such a young age, your mother is everything to you. The thought of how the 2 children must have felt getting their mother ripped away from them so cruelly is absolutely heartbreaking.
5-year-old is asking, "Where's mommy? Where's mommy? Where's mommy?"
In answer, they say they've shared too difficult for most adults to process, let alone young children.
Luckily, Andrea's father, Arnold Lloyd, came forward to take custody of Andrea's 2 little boys, saying, "It's hard, but I have to be there for them." As the news spread that Xavier was the killer, many of Andrea's family and friends came forward to talk about their theories for why the murder happened. This included Arnold, who went on record to tell the news outlets his theories.
Now, her father told me he is heartbroken. He said that she and her boyfriend had been together for the past 11 years and they had 2 sons together, but he also said that she planned to leave him, and that may have led to what happened here. Any idea why this might have happened?
Because she was going to leave him.
She was going to leave him?
Because she was tired of him messing around on her, and she was like a wife, not a girlfriend.
Arnold wasn't the only family member who commented on what happened. Andrea's uncle, Manuel Lloyd, who was the one who tracked Xavier down in the woods, also spoke about the couple.
I wouldn't have expected it. I didn't see it, because we're like a family. It hurts me for the fact that sometimes you have loved ones that's so close to you, hate to get you involved in certain things when it comes to them.
Andrea and Xavier had been together for 11 years, with Andrea merely 16 years old when they first started their relationship. They grew up together, they had children together. The couple practically spent their entire lives together. When a couple is dating for so long, the other half becomes part of each person's family. Could you imagine how shocked Andrea's family must have felt, finding out that someone they knew and trusted for over 11 years killed their precious family member?
Johnson is the father of Andrea's 2 children, as well as the one she was pregnant with, leaving family members asking, why?
My thing was, why you have to do this? You could have just walked away.
When you're in a relationship, your partner is meant to be someone that you love the most. I mean, it's called a partner for a reason, right? You're meant to be a team. How Xavier could have murdered his girlfriend of over a decade in such a brutal way is truly a mystery. Surely you couldn't do that to someone you love, right? We all know what it's like to go through rough patches in relationships. Let's be real, y'all. We've all argued with our partners, but I think we can all agree that most of the time, the worst that happens is that you ignore each other's existence for a good few hours. What Xavier did is sinister, evil, and unforgivable. I don't know about y'all, but Andrea's case definitely makes you feel paranoid. Hear me out. From her perspective, she knew Xavier inside and out. After spending 10 years with someone, you would think you knew them like the back of your hand. Andrea surely would have never predicted that Xavier could have been capable of murder. It really makes you think, maybe we don't know our partners as well as we think we do. After all, do we really know anyone? How are we to know what actually goes through our loved ones' minds? Perhaps we are all at risk of suffering the same fate as Andrea. Perhaps it's just the luck of the draw. Who knows? All in all, Andrea's story is a terrible tragedy. She was loved dearly by all her family and friends, who will likely never be the same again after her death. Just listen to all the kind words that they had to say about her after her death.
It's hard. It's hard because she's the type of person. She always calls her dad because we got so much love in the family.
She meant so much to you.
Hey, she was my everything. She's my everything. She's my everything.
She's always checking on you, making
every
sure
day,
you're okay.
Every day. Every day.
All y'all know that we are a loving family. And that was my baby. Yes. That was my heart.
Her first wish would have been bringing her family together like we always do.
Andrea wants us to smile right now.
Another important message that Andrea's murder brings to light is the importance of recognizing domestic abuse in relationships. Whilst Andrea's case is extreme, there were signs of Andrea's relationship becoming toxic. A day before her murder, Andrea reposted a cryptic Facebook message which described narcissistic manipulators. The post said, "Narcissistic manipulators, people who intentionally hurt you, then once they hurt you and you react, they are upset at how you react, then continuing to claim that these individuals hold zero accountability reality, see no wrong in what they did, and can be the same people who say they love and care for you. Maybe, when Andrea posted this, it was a reach for help. At the end of the day, no one really knows what goes on behind closed doors in a relationship. It wouldn't be an overestimation to assume that there might have been abuse going on behind the scenes for Andrea and Xavier. I think it's safe to say that if there's something to learn from this, it's that we should always pay attention to our loved ones, as well as ourselves. You might assume that you or someone else is safe in a relationship, but maybe we never are. When Andrea started her relationship, she probably thought it would be a happy, fulfilled partnership. Little did Andrea know, an awful fate was awaiting her. So, what do y'all think? Was Xavier always a bad person? Could he have lost his mind and killed Andrea in an act of passion? Or was it calculated? Do y'all think he deserves the death penalty? Let us know your thoughts in the comments.